talk to Big John about the big ideas of the day in a convivial atmosphere. He's a real conservative, not one of those country club Republicans. He's pro-family, pro-education, pro-business, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, and he loves his mama, too. Now here's your host, the big guy himself, John Mason.
Hey, guys. Today is Wednesday, February 24th, and we got another big show lined up for you today. And as always, if you want to get in on today's Hot Talk action, it's 504-556-9696, or if you prefer, 504-556-YO-YO. All right, let's see. We got Luke from Baton Rouge. Hey, Luke, what's up?
Hey, Bib. Good to talk to you. I love the show.
Thank you much.
Well, let me just say real quick, as far as what's going on with Biden and everything, I think the real problem is we got a big alien problem. There's a lot of people coming in. We're not keeping track of them. Is this live?
It's live.
I was listening to you just then. The rhino's obviously a big problem. I'm noticing one name missing from the list, and I'm wondering if it's worrying you like it's worrying me. Of course, it's Boba Fett. Do you worry he could come back? The thing is, though, Bib, is, correct me if I'm wrong here, or I don't know if this is offensive or not, but do you refer to your Lekus as head tails, or is that just like something that other people do? Is that a non-Twi'lek kind of jargon? Because I don't want to get this wrong, this next thing I say.
I have absolutely no idea what you're referring to at the moment.
The tentacles that grow on your head as a Twi'lek.
Yeah.
Your Bib Fortuna.
We got another out-of-state crank call, so cut him off. All right.
Boba Fett, your own escape from the great pit of Carcoon, obviously, notwithstanding, he may have survived the Sarlacc pit.
Okay. Once again, apparently the liberals are really paying attention to the show. Let's see, who is up next? Jesse in Baton Rouge. Hey, Jesse, what's up?
Hey, Bib, how you doing?
Another day in lockdown paradise. How about you?
Don't I know it? Dewonawanga from Baton Rouge, by the way.
Dewonawanga.
And I'm just wondering, when they start sending the stormtroopers in, how are we going to stop them from, screwing up our lives? You were talking earlier about abortion. I don't know about you, but personally, I think, it doesn't matter the age, doesn't matter the size matters not. We're all people. We're all humans, and we got a right to life. I personally believe in, I'm a spiritual guy. I believe in an energy that surrounds us and binds us all, and I think it's important, but with everything that we're trying to, the freedom that we try to enjoy here in the Outer Rim.
That's a challenge. We have got to make it through the next 2 years. And then we can take the House and the Senate.
I am the Senate.
Take, who we got? Jesse in Shreveport. Hey, what's up?
Hey, baby, how you doing? Happy 1 year anniversary, man.
Thank you, sir.
To say it's been an amazing one. I've been listening almost the whole time. I love the show. And to any of the liberals out there listening, I wanted to say a big McClunky to them. And you're doing great. You must be doing something right.
Well, maybe. Definitely growing some listenership.
McClunky.
All right, let's see. I've got Dave in Lafayette. Hey, Dave, what's up?
Hey, and great show. Thanks for doing it.
Oh, thank you.
Listen, you're just talking about it, actually. I think one of the big issues going to be coming up here is election integrity. I think it's something that's been on everybody's mind, especially since this last presidential race. I think here in Louisiana, with the primaries coming up, the primary race, the general race, the biggest race, though, that we're going to have this year is, of course, the Boonta Eve Classic. And I know you'll be seeing it from a close-up view from the box you normally get to sit in with Jabba the Hutt. My money's on Sebulba.
All right. I've been told that there are seminar callers out there who are trying to go after the popular conservative talk show hosts. So I'm doing something right, or I wouldn't annoy the bejeebers out of liberals from across the state and across the country. The bejeebers. Well, how are you?
Very good. How are you?
That's another day in phase 3 lockdown.
Absolutely. Can I get a big McClunky from Big John?
I'm not sure what a McClunky is.
Well, saying to the liberals, McClunky.
What does it mean?
What I worry about, and I've heard about this, is killing of born children, not just the unborn. I wanted to get your take on this, about the killing of the younglings on Coruscant. What do you think about that?
On Coruscant?
Star Wars.
Cut him.
John Mason, you were on air right.
Okay. All right. That apparently was the Star Wars caller. So let's see who we got. Still got the phone lines lit up.
McClunky?
I don't know what it means.
It's sort of like, your days are numbered.
McClunky.
I will always try to get liberals and their purveyors out of office and replace them with good conservatives. So certainly to that extent, you got my support on that.
And thus, McClunky.
Again, I'm going to have to look that up because I can't have a sound clip out of me if it means something nasty.
McClunky.
But
you must know. I mean, you speak Huttese.
All right, that was apparently one of the legion of Star Wars fans that we've picked up somewhere along the way. All right, let's move on. I want to transition. All right, who do we have, caller?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's your name?
This is Kelsey. How are you, babe?
Hi, Miss Kelsey. It's another day in lockdown paradise. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Happy 1 year anniversary.
Thank you much.
I just want to say, what's with all the calls you're getting about Star Wars? Every time I tune in, I hear someone talk about Star Wars. It's weird.
The day Rush died, there was a program, at least according to what I've read on the internet. It was a seminar for people to call popular conservative talk show hosts and get them to either fall for a Star Wars comment. And since then, I've been getting a lot of Star Wars calls.
What does Star Wars have to do with Rush Limbaugh, though?
You got me. It was just something that I read on the internet, and I've been getting a bunch of them, and I'll be honest, I'm kind of flattered because it means someone out there thinks I'm popular. And, I do this because I really enjoy doing it. I'm not making any money off it, and I certainly don't think that I'm the next Rush Limbaugh, but I do enjoy the show, and I'm glad I have listeners.
You might be the next Rush Limbaugh. I was going to ask him, how's the weather there in Tatooine?
There we go, and it's another Star Wars call. Well, all right, all the out-of-state calls have certainly been about Star Wars. Now, I'll tell you, Star Wars is okay, but I'm a Trekker. If I'm going to watch science fiction, I prefer Star Trek over Star Wars, so that should really give them some more ammunition. What's on your mind today?
Absolutely. Well, I'm doing the intro to the show, and I wanted to say, let's go bully the internet. This is Pod Awful.
Ah, Mr. Pod Awful, how are you?
Pod Awful TV.
Oh, y'all is doing it right.
Pod Awful sucks, you faggot. Bud boy. You scam artist, douchebag. You're the worst. Motherfucker. Give up. You fucking little piece of shit.
You're crazy. You're sick of your head.
Fucking dweeb. Faggot. Jackass. Pod Awful sucks.
You know what? You're not funny.
I want to really kick your ass.
My mom doesn't like it when I mention Pod Awful anymore.
Welcome, everybody. This is Pod Awful. I'm your host, Jesse P.S., as you could hear there from Bib John Mason. Mr. Pod Awful, hi, how are you? I guess he knew me. He heard of the program. Welcome, Pod Awful. One more time, huh? We've been away for a little while. lost a YouTube channel. It was complete McClunky that we lost it. Real bad stuff. But hey, listen. Is it a pain in the butt? Of course it is. We're not going to talk about that, though. I had this show planned already. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight on this show. And don't worry, if you're a Trekker or if you're not into Star Wars, I'm going to hold your hand through this one, okay? I'm going to do a little bit of an explainer. I'm going to treat you like you're a complete retard on this, so you're going to be fine. But I just wanted to start this off with just one little note about the whole YouTube thing. Again, obviously sucks, lost a lot of stuff, 11 years of hard work, having to reconnect everything, put everything on new platforms and stuff, open up new YouTube accounts and go everywhere else. But here we are, we're doing it, people are watching. It's no big deal, really. You know, I was thinking about it, and I'm not comparing myself to this kind of level or anything, but you know, you think about like who's been through stuff like this. You can't help but think about famous people. I was reminded, you know, I'm a big fan of David Letterman, and Letterman, he wanted to be the host of the Tonight Show, and that was kind of stolen out from under him by Jay Leno. And then Jay Leno was the host for years, and then Conan O'Brien got it. And I remember watching David Letterman. You could tell Dave was rooting for Conan. He thought Conan was the guy for the job. He thought, hey, this guy, he deserves it. He put in the hard work. They finally, got this guy out of there. He gets the Tonight Show. He's doing it for about 9 months, and then they take it right out from under him. They just kind of steal it away from him and give it back to Jay Leno for a minute, and then that doesn't work out, and now we're stuck with Jimmy Fallon, you know? And did Conan let that get to him? No. Conan was kicked off of The Tonight Show, the biggest platform on TV, The Tonight Show. And what did he do after that? Well, he invented podcasting. So, something to think about. Anyway, let's check in with the chat room, see what they're saying in there. We're live. It's a Monday. We're normally live on Sundays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, podawful.tv, and Wednesdays over there in the Pizza Fund, podawful.pizza. We missed you. Set phasers to bully. Thank you very much. All hail President Scroob. No idea what that means. I saw some great comments, though, during that intro. And again, that's our new fake radio friend, Bib John Mason. Now, he's on the real radio. I call him Bib. Apparently, his name is... I had this wrong the whole time. When I first tuned in, I could have sworn he said his name was Bib. Bib John Mason. I thought he was Bib Fortuna. Apparently, it's Big John Mason. I saw a lot of great comments. People were talking about wanting to milk his neck. He's got a big, fat, orn-free ta neck sack. And I saw one. What was the comment? Oh, it was a great one. It said... I'm sorry, I don't remember who said it now, but they said Rush Limbaugh is now a Force ghost. I thought that was very funny, yeah. Where all of the flags at the Boonta Eve Classic are half-mast for Rush Limbaugh. I'll tell you this right off the bat. Found that guy through, there's this show called Not Even a Show. And I know about that show because of our other fake radio guy, Tom Gully. Have you heard of him? Tom Gully, he's sort of our intro guy. He does the pre-show to Pod Awful on our YouTube channel over at The Tom Gully Show. And Tom, he actually had the guy from Not Even a Show on his show today. He called in, so that was very exciting. But I was watching this Not Even a Show. I'm not even a fan of it. I was watching it. He does prank calls. You know I love prank calls, kind of the king of them. And they suck. They're terrible. But I saw that guy, Bib John Mason, on there. And I went, oh, wouldn't it be really cool if somebody funny did a prank call to him? So I did 100 of them. And I'm never going to stop. I love calling Bib John Mason and annoying him with Star Wars stuff. And I can do that because I have autism. Now, listen, I think autism is a spectrum, and I'm not saying a single goddamn bad thing about anybody autistic on tonight's show. In fact, tonight's show is in praise of autism. In fact, I'm going to be leaning into my autism for this one. And I'm going to be talking about a topic that if you're not a Star Wars complete nerd like me, you probably don't know about it. But if you are, this one's kind of old news, but it's going to lead us into some nice, fun, and new avenues, okay? Again, if you're not into Star Wars, I'm here to hold your hand, buddy. Because every day when I got home from school as a little kid, you know, we just got the internet. I don't know, 10 years old or so. I don't know how old I was. But we had just gotten the internet for the first time. AOL dial-up. You don't even know where to go. It's websites back then. And nobody even knew, what does HTTP mean? I had never heard of a hypertext transfer protocol. Why would you expect that of me? But I had heard of a Star Wars databank, and I found myself every day after school on the Star Wars databank reading useless information. You know, I as a little kid, I was a super fan of Star Wars, and I love Star Wars. The great thing about Star Wars, and why, even if you're not into it, you should be able to connect to it as a viewer of Pod Awful, is nobody hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans. It's unbelievable. I think the only thing that comes close are fans of Opie and Anthony. They seem to hate everything on that show. I don't know enough about that one to know if it's a tie or who's above who, but Star Wars fans hate Star Wars more than anybody else on Earth. And as a kid even, I had this love-hate relationship with Star Wars. As the prequel started to come out, I was realizing, like, what is this? This is total garbage and nonsense. But I want to be careful about what I say here. I'm going to come back to that in just a second. But I would obsess over this thing because I had all of the original 1977 to 1983 action figures from Star Wars. And I always, even as a child, thought, isn't it odd that they've got an action figure for a guy who walks past the screen for 2 seconds in the background? Like, you have to pause the video to be able to even see him. And you can't even really do it then, because back then when you paused a VHS, it would do that tracking thing on there. You couldn't even see it. You had to kind of fuzzily make it out. And I know that because I had heard that you could see Ulaa's titty in Return of the Jedi when she's struggling with Jabba. Her titty pops out. And so I was trying to, a boobie in Star Wars. They can't tell me not to. My parents can't tell me not to watch Star Wars. You can't, you're not allowed. It's a green titty. It doesn't count. It's art. It's art, Mom. Get out of my room. So I thought it was fascinating that I've got all of these characters that have these clearly placeholder names like Hammerhead. And then I find out, if you go on the internet, you can find out the names and backstories of every character, including ones that didn't even make it into the film, for Star Wars. Now, I want to be clear about something. The reason all these characters, the reason they have names and stuff is Mama. But the reason they have backstories and names, somebody went to the trouble with all of that, is there are stories, comic books, novels, short stories, like Dungeons and Dragons style role-playing games, all based around the Star Wars universe. And I want to be very clear, I've never read any of those things, not one. All I read was the Star Wars databank and Wikipedia every day after school, like a nerd. And yes, somehow I still managed to get laid. So I would get home and I would go, let's see what the adventures of 2-1B, the medical droid, are today. What's he doing when he's not on the rebel medical frigate replacing Luke's hand with a mechanical one? Well, wouldn't you know it? It turns out he's been on many adventures. In fact, everyone in Star Wars, no matter how small, is the most interesting person to have ever lived, including the ones that aren't people. I'm not kidding. There's a slug on Jabba's palace's ceiling who's got a whole story about him. An entire story. Salacious B. Crumb, the little laughing puppet. He has lived a life that you could never dream of. And you can read all about it on the databanks of StarWars.com. And I now am burdened with the autistic weight of having learned all of these characters' names and stories. You point to a random guy walking around in the background on Star Wars. If it is the original movies, I can probably tell you his name. Oh, him? He's Efont Mom. Why do I know that? I shouldn't even tell people that. It's honestly too embarrassing to talk about this kind of stuff, but I feel like I have to say this in order to do tonight's show. Tonight's show is going to get into my favorite thing about Star Wars, a franchise that is now completely dead to me. I don't like it anymore. Now, first of all, I'm an adult man with no children. So, as you could imagine, if you are a normal person, when you grow up, you stop liking such things. But to be honest, I autism myself so far out. And this is my only thing. You know, I'm not into trains or elevators or Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm into one tiny little thing. Star Wars. Oh, what? The biggest franchise to ever exist, a cultural touchstone of our lifetimes. The biggest movie to ever come out. Star Wars. You're into that? I feel like that one's okay, but I'm not into it anymore because I can't be, because the sequel movies came out and they are horrific garbage. And I'm not one of these guys. You know, I'm not collecting Funko Pops along my wall. So I'm not one of these guys where when Disney bought Star Wars, I was like, no, I can't do this anymore. No, they're going to ruin it. I thought they could probably do a pretty good job. You know, Disney's pretty well known for making some stories. So it seemed like a real layup. I mean, it seemed like an easy slam dunk for them to pull this one. God, no. Nope. They messed that one up. So I would like to do what I think a lot of the internet has been too afraid to do in the wake of what we've learned. I was one of these big-time prequels bashers. I hated the prequels movies, even as a kid. You know, if you're under 25, if you're under 28 years old, you grew up with the prequel movies, and so you think they're good because you were stupid. You've got nostalgia goggles on. I have completely cauterized my own eyeballs of nostalgia. I don't have any of that. And even as a kid, I knew, like, I remember going to see Phantom Menace in 1999 with my dad, and I knew my dad wasn't into it. He just knew I liked it. He didn't want to watch, what's that, a goddamn alien? He doesn't know what's going on. So I knew I'd look over at him every once in a while. Kind of, you never do that thing as a kid where you check in with your parent, like, are we having fun? Is this okay? And I was looking at him and I realized I wasn't checking to make sure he wasn't just falling asleep because it's Star Wars. I was checking in to make sure that this wasn't the dumbest thing we've ever watched and I'm 10 or however old I am. You know, just previous to that, we were at a monster truck show with Truckosaurus Rex breathing fire into the air. That one seemed cool. But then little Anakin tried spinning. That's a good trick. And I knew something was amiss here. That said, what I'm going to say here is what the other people online, the nerds, the guys who are still holding the candle for Star Wars, refuse to say. George Lucas, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I didn't know it could get worse. Now, that said, I'm not one of these guys who are saying the prequels, they're actually good if you really study them. There are some interesting themes. There's some amazing technical revelations going on in those things, but they're terrible, terrible stories and terrible, terrible movies, and I've rewritten them a million times over in my head. I'm pretty sure you could train your dog to write a better Star Wars movie, but if you really think about it, George Lucas, he comes from a line of experimental filmmakers. The guy he has a love of film and particularly experimental film. George Lucas never set out to create the greatest story of good and evil of the modern day. It was an accident. He stumbled into it. And how did he do it? Because George Lucas is fully autistic. Now, again, it's a spectrum. I've just got a little bit. I just enjoy the fun adventure of the product, the little bit of fantasy meets sci-fi, the space opera of it all. I liked the special effects as a kid. You know, when I'm a kid, my favorite character is R2-D2 because I'm looking at him going, how'd they do that? How'd they got a robot? I liked robots. You know, I'm a simple guy that way. George Lucas is Rain Man, which means he's a genius. Let me be clear. George Lucas, again, sorry, he's a genius. He's an ideas man, and he should never be allowed anywhere near a script. But you want him just over there going, yeah, what if there was like, like a Chinese alien? And you're like, what? That sounds bad. What do you mean? Like a whole race of sort of Chinese-y looking aliens. I don't know. Just, what would you call them? Nemoidians? Love it. You know what? That's a great name. Have you heard the names they try to come up with ever since George Lucas wasn't a part of this stuff? When he sold the franchise off to the white slavers of Disney? Even the names. This guy can come up with a name for an alien all day long. He is a genius at it. I'm telling you, he's a genius. But unfortunately, being autistic sometimes means that you can't perceive the way humans are supposed to interact with each other. You don't understand the full range of human emotion. And when you decide to make all your characters in your fantasy show that could have been aliens and robots, when you decide to make the main ones humans, and then one of them's just got a big pet dog going, brrr, at that point, you kind of got to know about a little bit of human interaction. And luckily, on the first Star Wars movie, a bunch of people, his wife came in and re-edited the movie. She sort of saved it by editing it. And he had friends come in and rewrite the script for him. And basically, they gave it a human touch. And then the second movie came out, the best one, obviously, Empire Strikes Back. And that one kind of wasn't made by him. He didn't direct it. He didn't have a whole lot of input during the filming, but he did come up with all the ideas. He came up with the big revelation that's the greatest twist in all of movie history. That was him. George, sit in the corner, eat your crayons, and tell us the thoughts you have. And then we'll come up with the words. We'll worry about making sure Harrison Ford acts in this scene, or whether he just completely phones it in or not. Leave that up to us. Unfortunately, what a lot of people don't realize, and maybe you don't if you're not a nerd like me, is Star Wars is an independent movie. It's an indie film. It's the biggest indie film of all time. And George Lucas, being the genius he is, he had full creative control over it, which was completely wrong. Because it means he could surround himself with yes men. When 1998 rolls around and they start filming those newer movies, nobody could tell him no. He's the biggest guy, and he did it all himself. And how did he do it? To finance the film, he didn't really take so much money. He just used all the money he would have gotten into making the movie. And then he said, you know what? I'm going to take the merchandising and sequel rights on this. As you can guess, that turned out well for him, but it also explains why I've got a figure from 1977 called Hammerhead. So, Snaggletooth, the little guy who's sitting at the bar at the Mos Eisley Cantina. Now you can buy your own Snaggletooth. Make sure you get the variant Snaggletooth, the one with the orange pants instead of the tan one. That one's rare. It's more expensive. So this guy, he is a genius. And he's a shrewd businessman, but he has no idea what he's doing with story. And he has no idea the unintended consequences of some of his more outlandish ideas. And that's where we get to the crux of tonight. Tonight is all about McClunky. And again, maybe you've already heard of this, maybe you haven't. McClunky. I love this, okay? George Lucas, in perhaps the most controversial move that he's ever made of all time, he took the original Star Wars movies in 1977 and he changed them a little bit, just a little bit, because he can't leave well enough alone. He's a little like Chris Chan. When it comes to the spectrum, Chris Chan, if you'll recall, Chris Chan freaked out in a GameStop one day and sprayed everyone with a cloud of pepper spray just because Sonic the Hedgehog had the wrong color arms. And I'm not even going to venture a guess which color they were supposed to be and which one they were. I'll just leave it at that because she's a beautiful, Christine Weston Chandler is a beautiful woman. And I want to be able to breathe. I don't want him force choking me with mace. George Lucas is a little like that. He pays attention to those tiny little details, and he can't leave well enough alone. For the rest of his life, he's going to be sitting there in front of Star Wars, and he doesn't even own it anymore. And he's going to be going, I wish I had computer-generated effects when I was making this in 77, because I probably would have put rocks in front of R2-D2 here. That's what he's thinking about. He never does any changes that help the story. He only is thinking about how many rocks are in the scene. What do those clouds look like? Are they the right clouds up there? Sometimes he actively destroys the continuity of the movies, all in service of some bizarre little idea he had. And again, who's going to tell him no? Now, the strangest part of all of this is he sold off Star Wars in what? 2013, 14, somewhere in there. I don't even remember when Force Awakens came out. So it was incredibly shocking when Disney, now having owned this franchise for years, in 2019 released a brand new Blu-ray of the original movies. And lo and behold, fans were met with perhaps the strangest change that has ever been put inside any movie ever. And by the way, George Lucas kind of started this whole craze of changing stuff. Like, you almost certainly have never seen the same movie you saw in the theater at home. Every movie nowadays gets changed before it becomes a home release, before it's put on the internet, whatever. In fact, sometimes they change them while they're still in the theaters. Revenge of the Sith actually started that one off, I think, or it might have been Attack of the Clones. One of those, while it was still in theaters, he changed something in it. I won't get down into the minutia, but if you were to look up the list of the changes that have happened to the Star Wars movies over the years, you would be left baffled by it. It would be a conversation that you could never have with another human being. It's why I'm not going to bore you with the petty details, but I have to tell you this one. The most controversial change of all time in Star Wars, without a doubt, is the scene where Han Solo, Harrison Ford, shoots an alien named Greedo to death. Now, you've probably heard the phrase, Han shot first. This scene, in every single subsequent release of Star Wars, every time it's been reissued to VHS, Laserdisc, DVD, Blu-ray, it doesn't matter. Every time George Lucas tinkered with it. And lo and behold, the final copy of Star Wars, the original movie that Disney now owns, is a copy that Lucas had tinkered with and didn't tell anybody. And so bafflingly, this Han shot first scene has changed again. Now I'm going to show you a little bit of it, and I'm assuming I'm going to get hit with a lot of copyright strikes on this one, but who cares? I'm not a YouTuber anymore. So here is the 2019 Disney version of Star Wars. This is actually from Disney Plus. And I'm going to explain it to you. So originally, Han just shoots this alien Greedo dead. That's what happened the first go around, okay? Then he tinkered with it where they kind of shoot at the same time at each other. Originally, the alien didn't shoot. Now they shoot at the same time. Then fans go, that's no good. So then he switched it so that Han dodges the alien's bullet. It's in the most unconvincing special effect of all time. He somehow starts going Matrix style and dodges the bullet. At some point, he kind of tamed it a little bit where Han still shot first, but the other alien shot. I don't even know where it was left off before this final change happened. This is the scene in question. Take a look.
I don't have it with me. Tell Jabba.
So the alien's telling him, oh, we got no time for your excuses. You stole something from us.
Even I get
He's pointing a gun right at Han Solo's head.
sometimes. You think I had a choice?
Han's secretly pulling his blaster out from under the table.
For my dead body.
That's the idea, the alien says. Now, anybody who knows anything about Star Wars, when this version came out, they must have been sitting there on pins and needles during this scene going, what's going to happen now? And nobody could have seen this coming.
Oscar. Yes, I bet you have.
McClunky.
So I have to be clear. Never in the history of this movie has this character ever said that word. Play it one more time.
Oscar.
Yes, I bet you have.
McClunky.
McClunky. How does this happen? I mean, again, this is a movie shot in the 70s. This character has never said McClunky. There's no outtake of this character saying McClunky. The voice actor who played Greedo has now gone on record as saying, I never said that. What? Huh? Also, huh? Can I add, George Lucas, at some point, was sitting there stroking his Orn Free-Ta neck sack, his Bib Fortuna neck sack, going, huh. Okay, so how can I fuck with them now? And to be honest, nerds, you deserve it. For every piece of shit you gave George Lucas, every time you made him feel bad, every time you said he raped your childhood over the prequels, have you seen the sequels now? You deserve what happened to you when it comes to this scene. Every time. In fact, I hope to God, Disney gets the right idea in their head and goes, you know what? Let's let George fuck with it a few more times. Let's just see what he comes up with. Let's go to him and go, George, listen, we're going to still own the movie, but every time you edit it, we will put that out. You want to make people mad? We'll help you, buddy. Okay? You want to put a floating rock in front of somebody's head? We can make that happen. You want to add a comical scene with Jar Jar Binks eating poop? Why not? We don't care. You want to take the most pivotal scene where Darth Vader reveals he's the father of Luke Skywalker? Spoiler! And just add in, a guy flying around on a broomstick in the background. Put Harry Potter in there. We don't own that one. Put him in there anyway. We'll deal with it in court. Let him sue us, okay? Whatever you want, we'll do it. We don't care because you deserve it, nerd. George Lucas was sitting there stroking his sack beard going, all right, how can I fuck with these nerds this time? What can I do that's going to make them mad on the internet now? Which I love. That's a pod awful move. George Lucas and I. Mwah. So he's sitting there, he's thinking, he goes, okay, I made Greedo shoot first. I made Han shoot first. I've made him dodge bullets. What's the stupidest thing I can pull up? Why did you copyright strike somebody? Says pod awful in the chat. Oh, you stole my name. That's stupid. You got to go. So why'd I copyright strike him? Because he stole my content. By the way, just so you know, if you haven't seen this yet, I've said this one in a few different places. I'll talk about this real quick. You know that whole thing where I don't hit back on the goons? That's not a thing anymore. Bye. So anyway, when I lose my YouTube channel, you don't get to re-upload my content. You're going to have to work harder, okay? You're going to have to do a little transformation on it. Some fair use stuff is going to happen. You don't get to just re-upload. Make it funny. Just do something with it first. You're not gonna ever hear from me. Don't re-upload my stuff unless I say you can. Anyway, so George Lucas, he's sitting there. He's stroking the neck beard. He's stroking. He's going, how do I make him mad now? All right. Well, what if I had a third guy show up and no, that's going to be too hard. I know the guys over at ILM aren't going to want to help me on this anymore. They threatened to strike the last time I did this, and Disney will be pretty mad if they're not working on the next Avengers. So, I know. I'll just insert the stupidest word of all time. And then he sat there, and like I said, nobody can come up with stupid alien words and names and places better than George Lucas. He sat there and the slot machine in his head, the hamster wheel starts turning, and he goes, and what pops out but McClunky. It couldn't get any better than McClunky. Now, this is the most insane part of McClunky. Again, the actor who played Greedo, this little alien guy right here, I don't know if you guys can even see him. Screen's a little dark, but the guy who played him said, I didn't say that. I ain't never heard of no McClunky before, which means George Lucas, in his infinite autistic wisdom, this AU gold, beautiful man, and you should, even if you don't like Star Wars, worship this guy, okay? This is genius. He hired a voice actor and went, can you kind of sound like Greedo? And they went, what? What's a Greedo? And he went, he's a Rhodian. And they said, I don't know, I guess. What does he sound like? You know, Oonta Goonta and stuff. So he gets a guy, this poor sap. It might just have been his gardener, by the way. You know, he probably just went out to his front yard and went, hey, Jose, come here for a second. Yeah, Mr. Luca. Can I hear you say Oonta Goonta solo real quick? That is something I say every day because it is already what I speak. And he goes, perfect. If you just come down to the ranch for a second. He takes him into the ranch, Skywalker Ranch. They go into a recording booth. It's the dead of night. They're doing that thing where it's lights out and they're tippy-toeing around and you can hear a xylophone as they go bing, 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 bing. They sneak into the place that George Lucas owns and they go in there solo and they record this one line. He goes, okay, Jose, take it from the top one more time. Just a quick McClunky. McClunky. No, if you could try to listen. Greedo sounds like this.
My dead body.
You hear that? Could you just do that for me? McClunky. Okay, perfect. Yeah, why not? Throw it in there. Sure.
Yes, I bet you have.
McClunky. And then George was like, perfect. My vision, this is everything I've ever wanted out of a movie. Finally, my masterpiece, my Mona Lisa. I will give this to the world. And then he sold Star Wars. And this might be the greatest troll move ever. He was sitting on it. He could have released that version. He could have put out the McClunky cut. And he went, no, I'll do one better. I'll make $4 billion off of this thing that nerds will never leave me alone about. And then when they want to see the real movie, when they want to see the original, I'm gonna hit them with McClunky. And there's nothing you can do about it. Now, the most insane part of all of this is that McClunky actually derives, against all logic, it actually derives from George trying to tie the sequels together. The prequels and the originals, he's trying to tie them together. And how does he think to do that? Through themes and imagery? Nah. Through, it's like pottery, it spins. How does he do it? Through a certain character reappearing who maybe wasn't a big character, like obviously Anakin Skywalker. He's going to reappear, but maybe nothing like that. What if I take a random line from a random character and then have another random character say it through a retcon? And he did that. Sebulba. Turns out the first use of McClunky in Star Wars is from The Phantom Menace. Sebulba, the alien that Anakin pod races against at one point in a horrifically racist Jamaican accent while being played by a a Shakespearean English actor, he says, Makolonki. George Lucas he speaks these languages, man. He invented Huttese and he speaks it. And he went, okay, so if I want them all to be talking the same way, I guess I gotta go and make one of them say McClunky. I already had that one Doug alien say McClunky. Gotta have the other alien say McClunky. If they're not all saying McClunky, then what do we do? And now, even Disney is on board with McClunky because they had the Mandalorian end on our friend Bib John Mason saying McClunky. Here's Bib Fortuna. McClunky. There you go. That's real. McClunky. They added that in. McClunky. So Bib Fortuna now says McClunky. And now it's the perfect vision. The Disney era, the prequel era, the original era, they all say McClunky. George's vision is finally, you know what? It's all bullshit. It's all fucking bullshit, man. George Lucas will tell you all day long he's doing it for this reason or that reason. You got the nerds saying, actually, it's the ring theory. And if you really truly understood the prequels, you would know they're ingenious. Nah, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. I love George Lucas. I think this thing is very funny, but it's bullshit because I've been choking down the George Lucas bullshit since I was born, since I was a little kid. I remember the first time I watched Star Wars, I was probably like 2 or 3 years old. I remember it. And I remember reading about Star Wars stuff in magazines before the prequels came out. And I remember looking this stuff up online. And I remember reading all the old interviews with George Lucas and his ideas and him claiming that he had written out the whole story ahead of time. I remember way before Revenge of the Sith coming out, I read in a magazine in like 1996 that in George Lucas's head, Darth Vader was made Darth Vader by battling Obi-Wan on a lava planet and exploding into a ball of fire. I remember all of that. And that's why I know it's all complete and utter bullshit. Because George Lucas is nothing but a liar. Now, again, I'm not talking crap about him. I'm taking nothing away, but he's a showman. Number one thing is he is a showman, and he will spin a yarn. He can't tell a story to save his life unless it's to make you think that he was doing some genius filmmaking. There is maybe no better example of this than a certain story that has been a rumor, unproven, and many different takes on this over the years. A lot of people agree. A lot of the fans of the movies, they think that this theory is true. They just believe it because it seems right. But George Lucas and company would have you believe otherwise, and nobody's really quite sure. If you were to look up articles about this, they would tell you that it seems to be an unfounded rumor. I'm going to tell you all about this thing, okay? Because it led me on my own autistic Star Wars rabbit hole that has got me. If I don't express this to somebody, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to explode, okay? I've gone on an internet deep dive that the likes of which the world has never seen. And all of this will explain to you why I know that this whole McClunky thing is just the world's biggest troll. That it has nothing to do with linking the movies together or him having an idea or him trying to make Greedo seem like he's a more menacing character. None of it's true. George Lucas loves a tall tale, man. He does. He claimed for years he had plans for sequel movies up until episode 12, and then he said he never planned on that, and then he said he was never even going to do the prequels, and then he did the prequels, and then he sold it off to Disney, and then when he sold it off to Disney, he said, here are the treatments that I always had planned for the movies that I said just a couple years ago I had no intention of making or doing. Well, then why did you have the plans, George? Why did you have the plans? And it turns out that the whole thing was about midi-chlorians and the macrobiological world and all this other nonsense he's just completely made up, and it all boils down to whether or not Luke Skywalker gets mauled by an ice monster because the actor who portrayed him got his face fucked up in a car wreck. Now, I'm going to go through this deep dive with you in just a second. But before I do, as we did just come back, Pod Awful, we had this big thing where we lost our YouTube channel. We've had a lot of people reach out and say some very kind things. A lot of fans. Thank you to everybody who's reached out. Thank you to the people who joined the Pizza Fund. By the way, podawful.pizza if you want to see tonight's after show or our Wednesday shows. Tonight's after show, by the way, is going to be, it's actually a pre-recorded thing. Is this live? No, it will not be. It's a pre-recorded thing. I'll be uploading a little extra content after the show tonight for you on the Pizza Fund. Join at podawful.pizza. But a lot of people have reached out and said some very kind things and, showed their support in these troubling times. And I just want to say a big thank you. We have a pretty famous listener of this show. I don't know how she started listening to it. I don't know if this is just in her wheelhouse or somebody shared it with her, but I didn't even know she was watching until she sent me this video. This is from Lori in Chicago, big famous listener of Pod Awful.
Thank God. Pod Awful is back, baby. And the earth is flat, not round.
Okay, thank you, Lori Lightfoot, mayor of Chicago. Jenny Slate, Burger Fund. Oh, no, they're getting me with that one. The Burger Fund. Guys, ban them. I can't take it. Imagine me selling burgers or whatever they're accusing me of. Finally joined the Pizza Fund. So glad I did. Best thing ever, says Anonymous in the chat. Thank you very much. We just got light-footed, they're saying in the chat. Isn't that Lila? That might have been Lila. I don't know what to think about Lila anymore. Ever since she broke up with Plank. She broke up with Rufio, then she breaks up with Plank. I don't know what to think about Lila anymore. Anyway, before we get into the big autistic dig here, I do want to say we've got a brand new shirt available at the Pod Awful store, podawful.shop. If you'd like to grab it, this is the Pod Awful Is This Live t-shirt. As you can see here, the Pod Awful program. It's a beautiful original design. Let me just click on this. Beautiful original design. You got the TV logo there, for Pod Awful TV, the program. And then if you see here at the bottom, it says owner of the Tom Gully Show, TM. And so we do own the Tom Gully Show. And if you'd like to support our other show, the Tom Gully Show, you can buy this shirt over at podawful.shop. Again, the Pod Awful program Is This Live t-shirt. So there you go. Great new shirt. Had to say it. Let's get into this rabbit hole. Now, I've had yarn up. Most of the reason I couldn't do a show for the past few weeks is I've had yarn and thumbtacks going to every corner of this room. I've had sticky notes up and newspaper clippings, and I have been researching in a way that is unreasonable. I should not have been doing this. If you don't know the story, here's the theory. In episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, at the very beginning of the movie, Luke Skywalker, pretty much even before you really get a good look at him on screen, gets mauled by an ice monster called a Wampa. He gets his face completely ganked off. And they find him. Han Solo's got to go out. He finds him. He's all battered and bruised. The monster almost eats him. It's a whole thing. And I always loved that scene as a kid. It's the first time you see anybody use like telekinesis with the Force and all this stuff. And Luke's the one doing it. It's very cool. It shows that he's come a long way. And also, goddamn, his face. His face. His face is really messed up. And man, his face kind of stays messed up, for a while in the movie. They put him in this thing called a Bacta tank, and it's supposed to heal him, but goddamn, he still looks like he's made of raw mincemeat. The theory is that they shot that scene, they wrote that scene entirely because Mark Hamill, the guy who plays Luke Skywalker, right before the original Star Wars movie came out, between filming the original Star Wars and the premiere, Mark Hamill was in a horrific auto accident. Now, this is the theory. This is what people have said for years and years and years. He was in this terrible auto accident, and it required so much plastic surgery on his face that it forever changed his very visage. And so they wrote that scene in just to explain to the children why their favorite superhero of all time, Luke Skywalker, now looks like a Picasso. Now, as a kid, I looked at him and I went, God, he looks way different. But I didn't have any sense of time between the movies. I didn't know how long it was between shooting one and the other. I didn't know if he was just meant to look older. He certainly did. But he definitely looked worse. And I always chalked it up to, well, I guess he just looks funny. I don't know. He doesn't look that bad in the first one. Mark Hamill was kind of a sex symbol. He was kind of like a teeny bopper. They put him on magazines and stuff with Donny Osmond. He was supposed to be like the next hot thing. He's the biggest star in the biggest movie. I mean, come on. Obviously, Harrison Ford came out a lot better than Mark Hamill in all of this. There's a reason he went into voice acting. You see, the car crash thing is true. But the story goes that it wasn't as bad as people said. And here's Mark Hamill himself in the 70s, right after the first movie. I think Empire's coming out. And he's on this British interview show. And the host actually asks him about this rumor. And Mark Hamill kind of plays it down. But I have to say, he plays it down while looking like the Phantom of the Opera.
There's you all the way through. There were no stand-ins in that stuff. There was a lot of talk, a lot of stuff written in the press about a terrible accident that you survived. Those reports were exaggerated, I believe.
Oh, yeah. In early 77, before the film came out, my car skidded.
Now, to be clear, they're filming him from the good side. Okay? This side seemed to survive the accident.
I broke my nose against the steering wheel. And it was sort of forgotten. They set the nose, and the movie came out. Nobody noticed, that there was anything wrong. And I never really thought about it. And over the period of years, it's built up into having my face reconstructed with plastic surgery.
So he tries, he's an effervescent kind of guy. He's playful. He's a funny dude. He knows how to work an interviewer. He tries to make, it's no big deal. Oh, they say I got plastic surgery. Ha ha ha. No, come on. And the interviewer says this.
But it wasn't really too bad, and you are really as you seem. Well, that's a reassuring bit.
It wasn't really too bad, I guess. So he just completely erases what Mark Hamill just said.
But it wasn't really too bad, and you are really as you seem.
And you see Mark Hamill does his look like, what did you just say? No, I just said I looked fine. Nobody could even notice a difference. And he's like, huh? Well,
that's reassuring.
And then he just kind of looks down. It's one of those, bum, 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 Charlie Brown moments. Now, this has been the official story of the Star Wars camp since day one of this rumor getting out there. At first, they didn't address the car crash thing at all. Then it got, somehow somebody found out about it. And then people started saying, like, I don't know, he looks a little different to me. And other people were like, well, it's been 2 or 3 years. A guy might look different, but he's in his 20s. I mean, how much different do you look from 25 to 28? I mean, he's not that much older. Come on. And then they're like, well, yeah, I mean, he got a little bit fucked up. George Lucas, bullshit extraordinaire George Lucas, has said officially, not just on record, on the DVD commentaries for Star Wars, has said that he absolutely did not write those scenes to cover up the car crash scars of Mark Hamill. He said it helped, but it had nothing to do with the idea of it. It absolutely had no influence. And that, according to any official source, is the final word on it. Mark Hamill says, it was barely anything. He didn't have to have plastic surgery. But then Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia, says, well, actually, they had to take cartilage out of Mark's ear and put it inside his nose and reshape his face. She said it was horrific. And then there's another interview where Mark Hamill says that his face was basically mangled hamburger. The stories always conflict, but the final answer on all of it is always that scene had nothing to do with it. We promise. We always thought Mark looked the same, which I thought, well, let's take a look. And it turns out somebody's made a very handy graphic for exactly this kind of exercise. Here's Mark Hamill every year of his life for the past, 30-odd years, 40-odd years. So we've got 1971 Mark Hamill. And if you look here, handsome guy, almost pretty, really. Pretty guy up until 1978. And then suddenly, he's a horrific bog monster from Dagobah. And this is the year, 77 is the year the car crash happened. And 78, everything changes. And then if you watch over the years, he goes up and down in looks to such an insane degree. I've never seen a more roller coaster ride of looks. In fact, in 1988, he looks pretty good. 1989, he's got a crazy look going on with the bleached hair, but it's working for him. And then 1990, oh my God. And then obviously, he is getting older in these pictures. He does eventually just look like a frog person in 2006, but he is an older guy. But as he ages, the scars, the deep, deep, horrific scars start to come out. And in fact, there's a line across his nose in every photo after a certain year. In like 1992, one of the scars on his nose from where they had to remake it out of his ear bones gets so deep that he can no longer hide it. Even makeup won't cover it up. He's just got this permanent line across his nose. Okay, fine. Still doesn't prove that they wrote the scene to cover this up. And again, to me, this is the holy grail of George Lucas bullshit stories. Did he write a scene because it was a good scene for character reasons, which is what he claims, or did he write it because suddenly his lead actor in the biggest film franchise of all time looks like garbage? Well, let's find out. Speaking of garbage, did you know that Mark Hamill was recently caught picking cigarette butts out of the garbage and smoking them? Here he is reaching into a cigarette ashtray, a public ashtray, picking out a butt, and then getting in his car and smoking it while getting burgers. So, listen, all I'm saying is, does that prove anything? No. All I'm saying is, when you get to a certain point in life and your looks have deteriorated to a certain point and you've been mangled up, maybe you're more willing to pick through the trash to find your dignity. Now, for me, and for many, many dorks like me, for years, the definitive answer to this question has been the Star Wars Holiday Special. When I tell you the way, listen, I didn't see that as a kid. Famously, the Star Wars Holiday Special, it came out one time and that's it. It was pulled forever. It was garbage. It was so bad, it's unwatchable. But very famously, bootlegs of it have passed around the internet for decades now. And of course, I didn't see it as a kid, but when I saw it as an adult, I noticed the most jarring thing. You would think the most jarring thing would be that one of the characters in the movie featured is Chewbacca's grandpa. And this is a show, by the way, it's a 70s Christmas special meant for families. And in this scene, Chewbacca's grandpa, the Wookiee, has cyber sex. He fucks a ghost, a holographic ghost woman. So you would think that would be the worst scene, but no, it is not. The worst scene is the one featuring Mark Hamill. And the reason is, this is about a year, a little less than a year after his horrifying car crash is when they filmed this. And again, the details of this car crash, by the way, very hazy, very murky details.